Okay, in this tutorial, we're going to look at answering questions that ask you to describe and explain the weather associated with a cyclone or a depression, which is an area of low pressure. And the first thing that you're going to want to do in preparation for your revision notes is write these 6 features down, because these are very important. And as you construct your answer, you're going to want to be referring to all of them. Okay, let's have a little look at a question. What I suggest you would do is attempt to answer this question. So you might choose to write down this question on the reverse side of your revision card and attempt to answer it. Okay, if you have gone ahead and tried to answer it, now let's have a look at what you should have written, what should be appearing in your answer. Now, the first thing to decode in this question is actually what is the actual weather in our 2 places. So we're given 2 locations, Ballycastle and Lerwick. And the question asks us to give reasons for the differences. So we would actually have to be able to describe the weather in Ballycastle and describe the weather in Lerwick. So you'll need to first be able to work out what a station symbol is and the weather linked to a station symbol. So let's have a little look at this question. Now, beg your pardon. What we have here is a written description of the weather in Ballycastle, and it comes directly from the knowledge that you would be expected to have of this weather symbol. So we know that Ballycastle has heavy rain, 35 knot winds coming from the northwest. The temperature is 8 degrees and there's 8 octaves of cloud cover. And we've simply got that information from Ballycastle. We could do the same for Lerwick. 4 degrees, 1 octave cloud cover, winds coming from the southeast, and a 10 knot wind, and there's no weather. So why is this weather being experienced in Ballycastle, and why is it different from Lerwick? Now, this comes to your understanding of these synoptic weather charts. And the first thing is to decide, well, what type of weather air pressure do we have? Because that is one of the 6 key things you need to know. Well, because we can see on the isobars that these numbers are below 1,000, that this is clearly an area of low pressure. Now, our knowledge of low pressure should tell us that low pressure means air is rising, and as air is rising, moisture rises, which forms clouds. So we're likely to have quite a lot of clouds in an area of low pressure. In general, we're also likely to have stronger winds because the air is traveling towards areas of low pressure, which would explain strong winds. Final piece of information we need to know about air pressure when linked to low pressure systems is that winds travel in an anti-clockwise direction, as I'm indicating right now. Okay, let's now review what we also know about isobars. We know that when isobars are close together, winds are stronger. We also know that winds follow the isobars in an anti-clockwise direction in an area of low pressure. Okay. What else do we see on this synoptic map that can help us try to interpret the weather? Well, we can see this symbol, little semicircles on a line. That is what we call a warm weather front. Warm weather fronts bring steady rain, and as they arrive, the temperatures would increase. We can see another symbol here with triangles. Now, this represents a cold weather front, and the arrival of a cold weather front would indicate temperatures falling, large cloud cover in the shape of cumulonimbus clouds, as well as heavy rain. In between these two, so the area I'm indicating here, which is often called the warm sector, it looks like a wedge, is an area of warm air from a warm air mass. Either side, where I'm indicating right now with the dot, this is a cold air mass, so all of this area is an area of cold air. Okay, now that we've interpreted all of that, one final thing is we are in March, so it is early spring. Let's try to explain the weather in Ballycastle. So why has Ballycastle heavy rain? Well, the explanation for that is the arrival of a cold front. Ballycastle sits next to a cold front. Why is Ballycastle 8 degrees? Well, it's 8 degrees because it's March. However, we'll notice that it is warmer than Lerwick, so why is it warmer than Lerwick? Well, first of all, because it is still in the warm sector, which I'm indicating here, because the cold front hasn't actually arrived yet. And it's also much further south, so it has a more southerly latitude, which means the sun is more directly overhead, which will heat Ballycastle more. So that is why Ballycastle is warmer. So why does it have 35 knot winds? Well, because it is quite close to the center of low pressure, which is the area I'm indicating right now. And the isobars are quite close together, so the winds are much stronger. Why are the winds coming from the northwest? Well, wind direction is determined by an anti-clockwise direction in an area of low pressure, and they follow the isobars. So if you follow my little red dot, it's coming down here as it follows the isobar, gets to Ballycastle, it's therefore coming from the northwest. Why are there 8 octaves of cloud cover? Well, that is determined by the cold front which is arriving, which brings with it cumulonimbus clouds. Now that we've established the weather in Ballycastle and why we have that weather, and we've looked at the temperature, the rainfall, the wind speed, the wind direction, and the cloud cover, and we've linked that to the air pressure, all of those things, let's just contrast it with Lerwick. So we can see that Lerwick is colder. Well, we've established it's colder because it's further north. It's a more northerly latitude there. It's more of an angle on the Earth's surface. It angles away from the sun, and therefore it's heated less by the energy from the sun. Why else is it colder? Well, it's in an area of cold air. It's not like Ballycastle in the warm sector. It's in this massive area outside of that little upside down V, and therefore it's in an area of cold air. It's a cold air mass. That's why it's colder. Why is there 1 octa of cloud cover? Well, because it's cold air, and also the air pressure is quite close to 1,000, that means that it's likely the air is sinking here because it's cold air. And when air sinks, clouds can't form, which explains why it's going to be clear of clouds. So why is there a southeasterly wind? Well, let's remind ourselves, winds travel in an anti-clockwise direction in low pressure, following the isobars. So I'm tracking the wind here with my red dot, and as it arrives in Lerwick, it's coming from the southeast, which we can see on our weather symbol. Finally, why is it only 10 knots? Well, that is to do with the fact that the distance between the 2 isobars is quite far apart. It's also much further from the center of low pressure, which is over here, and therefore the winds are going to be much milder. Okay, that is how you answer these questions. The key learning outcome, the thing you need to remember, and it's probably something to revise, is when you answer one of these questions, you want to refer to the temperature, the rainfall, the wind speed, the wind direction, cloud cover, and air pressure in your answer. Whatever shape or form these questions come in, all of these should be dealt with, and you should look to explain why these vary. And the points that you're going to make will be linked to isobars, they'll be linked to weather fronts, they'll be linked to time of year, they'll be linked to where you are in your latitude, possibly, because we've got a southerly latitude and a more northerly latitude, and they'll be linked to the actual air pressure itself. And that's the starting point. You've got to know whether you are in an area of low pressure or high pressure. And this is clearly an area of low pressure.